Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Davis, and I'm the professor of UAS technology at our local college and an FAA safety team representative. This presentation is Module 5 of a 6-part series designed for the utilities. The issue of maintenance for UAS, and particularly scheduled maintenance, is not very well understood. Now, it's my hope during this presentation it will provide the necessary information to help you create a maintenance program within your organization to ensure the safety of operations. In order to understand regulatory requirements, let's just take a few minutes and review the FAA regulatory requirement for both manned and unmanned. Over the past few decades, the notion of traditional aircraft design has significantly changed. Where there are many modern aircraft that resemble earlier models, their components, systems, and overall architecture have evolved, including the introduction of unmanned aircraft systems. The introduction of such aircraft into the NAS, or the National Airspace System, has resulted in several challenges, from maintaining airworthiness to the oversight of safety operations. Despite the growing consumer attractions to own and operate UAS, the subsequent safety impact of these aircraft is in question by the FAA. A major concern is to ensure that all aircraft which fly in the National Airspace Systems are deemed airworthy. Now, for manned aircraft, this is accomplished via a scheduled maintenance procedures as directed by the FAA. Preventive maintenance also supports airworthiness of an aircraft by gathering and evaluating component reliability data to determine that when several components need to be removed or undergo maintenance. Overall, these efforts improve the safety of the NAS by ensuring that all aircraft are safe for flight. However, these same requirements have not been extended to include small unmanned aircraft systems, which presents a big gap in safety. To operate manned aircraft in the NAS, a certification of airworthiness is required by the FAA as outlined in Title 14 of the Code of Federal Regulations. To obtain this certificate, a registered owner-operator must submit an application to the FAA, upon which a determination is made on whether or not the aircraft is eligible in a condition for safe operations. Now, once obtained, the certificate is effective as long as the required maintenance, preventive maintenance, and provisions are performed in accordance with Title 14 CFR, both parts 43 and 91. Unlike manned aircraft, small unmanned aircraft systems are not required to comply with FAA airworthiness standards or to obtain an aircraft certification. However, the operator of the unmanned aircraft is required to perform a pre-flight visual and operational check to ensure that all safety pertinent systems are functioning properly. Although there are many important differences in operation realities between manned and unmanned aircraft, the fundamental fact is that UAS share airspace with manned aircraft, and the safety operations of one affect the safe operations of the other. Even though the intent of unmanned traffic management is to segregate most of UAS and manned aircraft activities, altitude and airspace restrictions may not prevent UAS from entering airspace reserved for manned aircraft. While there are proposed maintenance requirements for small unmanned aircraft systems that are intended to establish some baseline for continued airworthiness and maintenance, we must remember that none are explicitly required by the FAA. Current regulations only require small unmanned aircraft systems operators and remote pilots to maintain an appropriate state of airworthiness. That state of airworthiness is left up to the operator, and as such is completely subjective based upon the knowledge of the operator. Vagueness in this requirement, combined with the growth of unmanned industry, is of concern for the FAA and today puts the burden of effective maintenance directly upon the shoulders of the operator and its enterprise. Now let's take a look at some ideas around a successful UAS maintenance program. Let's remember, no person may operate a civil small unmanned aircraft system unless it is in a condition for safe operations. Prior to each flight, the remote pilot in command must check the small unmanned aircraft system to determine whether it's in a condition of safe operation. This is specifically outlined in Title 14, Part 107.15. Maintenance practices being utilized for a variety of UAS are derived by individual manufacturers. Now, some classes of UAS will likely follow existing framework and methodologies of manned aircraft maintenance protocol as defined by the manufacturer. So it's very important you have a discussion with the manufacturer to determine if there is a recommended procedure or documentation regarding the maintenance of the UAV. It's imperative to understand how UAS maintenance procedures and methods must be derived in order to ensure a safe operational environment among groups. UAS operators may have varied requirements based upon inherent risk, aircraft complexity, and user requirements. Now, one of the first things to do is locate the operator's manual for your UAS and find the maintenance chapter. Then pick up the phone and discuss with the factory the recommended practices and procedures for scheduled maintenance. If the manufacturer does not have and only have maybe a limited procedure, it is really the responsibility of the operator to create their own checklists and procedures. Review every section of their manual and develop your own in-house procedures. Now be sure to read over all the documentation from the manufacturers before proceeding in creating your own manual. And this includes picking up the phone and actually calling them. There are many methods on how to create your maintenance procedures and your checklist. Now be sure they conform to your own organization's operations and ensure that the primary goal is aligned with the enterprises, but maintain UAS safety at all times. Whatever checklist you develop or process you create, ensure there is a reporting characteristic and a historical library that is well maintained. Although not required by the FAA, ASTM F2584-06 provides a very good starting place in creating effective procedures. Now there's other related ASTM standards, which includes 2241, 2295, 2395, 2411, and 2415. All of these documents will assist in an overall maintenance direction, but it is up to the operator to create detail, perform its actions, and keep records. Again, all of this is not directly required by the FAA, but it does document the operator's intention to provide continual UAS safety, which is required by the FAA. So I strongly suggest to obtain these documents and set up a written procedure for maintenance. Now, as we've discussed, there are no FAA-defined procedures. The only definitions focuses on the responsibility that is clearly defined to be the operators or the pilots. Now, the following few slides are some possible procedures to consider. Any of the procedures about maintenance should include clear instructions on disassemble, repair, assemble, and test. Critical components, such as the motor, should be very well documented and clear to the technician or the pilot. Be sure to include maintenance and cleaning steps in your pilot's checklist. Now, with the COVID pandemic, it is important that we keep our aircraft, our ground control station, and other shared surfaces very clean. I would recommend wipes that are formulated specifically for this, and one of the products is shield wipes that you can obtain from any local distributor. Aircraft maintenance is critical to the safe operations of UAS. Be sure to incorporate manufacturers' recommendations carefully and document all actions necessary for good operations. Very few UAS manufacturers provide recommendations for annual or hourly preventive maintenance. I believe these are very important periodic inspections to prevent future safety issues. Please try to outline these, if at all possible, in your maintenance procedures. So in summary, the FAA really places the responsibility of a maintenance program on the UAS pilot and the operator, as well as the enterprise. Other than published documents from the manufacturer, it is really up to the operator to create a program. But be aware that the FAA will ask for these if you do get audited. So record keeping and detailed procedures are really necessary to meet these requirements. I want to thank you for joining me. You can contact me in my email shown here, or even get online to my personal website. So I look forward to seeing you at the next webinar.